From the roaring arenas of WWE to the bright lights of Hollywood, few names have become as universally recognized as John Cena. But behind the championships, the catchphrases, the memes, and the blockbuster movies lies a story of determination, discipline, and relentless self-belief. In this video, we dive deep into the life of John Cena, from his childhood beginnings to the global icon he is today. This is the full journey of the man who became a hero to millions. John Felix Anthony Cena Jr. entered the world on April 23, 1977, in the quiet, green surroundings of West Newbury, Massachusetts, a place far removed from the roar of wrestling arenas and the flash of Hollywood cameras. His hometown was the kind where neighbors knew each other by name, where life was simple, and where children played until sunset without the noise of modern distractions. Yet inside one particular house on Old River Road, life was anything but quiet. The Cena household was full of energy. 5 boys under one roof, each with their own personality, their own dreams, and their own competitive spirit. John was the second oldest, and that position alone shaped him in profound ways. From the start, John had to fight for attention, fight for space, and sometimes even fight for the last slice of pizza on the table. His brothers Stephen, Dan, Matt, and Sean weren't just siblings. They were his first rivals, his first teammates, and his first training partners in the chaos of growing up. Their home was a place where the TV was always loud, jokes were always flying, and someone was always testing boundaries. But it was also a home rooted in love, discipline, and strong values. His mother, Carol, was the calm in the storm, gentle, caring, and determined to keep her boys grounded. His father, John Cena Sr., was the opposite. Charismatic, loud, passionate, and heavily involved in the local wrestling circuit. He even called himself Johnny Fabulous, a name that young John found amusing long before he understood how wrestling personas worked. Although the family was lively, Cena's early childhood was not the confident, muscular powerhouse story people imagine. In reality, young John was small, much smaller than the kids around him. He was thin, often quiet in new spaces, and sometimes unsure of himself. That vulnerability made him a target for bullies. At school, other children would make fun of him, shove him in hallways, or mock him for being different. At the time, he didn't have the strength or the physical presence to fight back. Many days, he would come home upset, frustrated, and wondering why he didn't fit in like everyone else. For many kids, that type of bullying becomes a lifelong wound. But for Cena, it became a turning point. One evening, after a particularly rough day at school, John approached his parents and told them he wanted to start lifting weights. He was only 12 years old, but he spoke with a seriousness that made his parents pause. He didn't want revenge, and he didn't want to be feared. He simply wanted to build himself into someone strong enough to stand tall. His father didn't argue. Instead, he found an old, basic weightlifting bench with a worn-out barbell and placed it in the basement. It wasn't much, but to John, it felt like the beginning of something powerful. What happened next became the foundation of the man he would become. Every single day after school, Cena would head down to that cold basement and push himself through sets of curls, presses, and lifts. At first, the weights barely moved. But slowly, week after week, the skinny boy grew stronger. The basement became his sanctuary, a private world where he could rebuild himself piece by piece. He learned discipline, routine, and the satisfaction of earning results through effort. Those quiet hours of training began shaping a mindset of resilience that would later define his entire career. But John wasn't just a kid training to get stronger. He was also incredibly curious and creative. He loved making people laugh and was always mimicking wrestlers, cartoon characters, and even his own father. At school, he became known for his humor, but this time it wasn't used to hide weakness. It was an expression of confidence slowly growing inside him. Teachers noticed the shift. His mother saw it. Even his brothers noticed that John was becoming someone with focus, direction, and a sense of purpose few kids his age had. By the time he reached high school, Cena looked different. Years of lifting had begun to show. He wasn't huge yet, but he was strong. Strong enough to surprise anyone who underestimated him based on his size. He joined the football team, playing as a center despite being smaller than most centers in the league. What he lacked in size, he made up for with explosive power, determination, and pure heart. Coaches admired him for showing up early to practice, staying late, and never backing down from bigger opponents. Still, his early memories of being bullied never left him. Instead of becoming bitter, he used those lessons to develop empathy. He became someone who defended others, someone who didn't like seeing anyone pushed around. The same qualities that fans would one day admire, loyalty, respect, kindness, were being shaped long before he stepped into a ring. His father's involvement in wrestling promotions also meant that John grew up around the culture of larger-than-life characters. He would watch wrestlers backstage, admire their charisma, and listen to the wild stories they told. Even though he didn't plan on becoming a wrestler yet, those experiences sank deep into his imagination. They taught him that entertainment could be powerful, that confidence could be crafted, and that stepping into a character could inspire millions. By the time Cena finished high school, he was no longer the small kid struggling to fit in. He was a young man with ambition, discipline, and a burning desire to make something of himself. Something bigger than West Newbury, bigger than his high school football field, and bigger than anything he had ever known. Everything he had learned, every bruise, every laugh, every weight lifted in that cold basement, was preparing him for the journey that would transform him into one of the most iconic figures in modern entertainment. As John Cena entered his teenage years, the world began to shift around him, but his internal drive only grew stronger. High school was no longer a place of pure struggle. He had carved out a reputation for himself, not as the quiet, bullied kid he once was, but as someone tough, disciplined, and remarkably determined. He had developed a love for physical fitness that bordered on obsession. The weight room was no longer just a basement. It became a sanctuary where he could push himself further than anyone else expected. While other teenagers were preoccupied with video games, hanging out with friends, or casual sports, John Cena was building a foundation for the man he would one day become. A man who would never quit, no matter the challenge. Football remained central to his life. He played center for his high school team, a position that demanded not only strength but also strategy, quick thinking, and teamwork. John quickly earned respect from his teammates and coaches alike. While his physical size was still modest compared to other players, his combination of sheer determination and intelligence made him a formidable force on the field. It was here that he first learned lessons that would echo throughout his wrestling career: preparation, discipline, and the importance of mental toughness alongside physical prowess. Outside of football, Cena's fascination with performance and entertainment began to grow. He loved to mimic, entertain, and draw attention with his humor. Yet he was also quietly observing the world of professional wrestling that had fascinated him since childhood. At home, he would sometimes watch the VHS tapes of WWE events his father had collected, studying the moves, the showmanship, and the energy of the crowd. Something inside him stirred, a desire not just to be strong, but to inspire and connect with people through performance. After graduating high school, Cena's path led him to Springfield College in Massachusetts, where he pursued a degree in exercise physiology. This choice was no accident. His love for fitness, strength, and understanding the human body had become central to his identity. College gave him an entirely new environment to test himself. He joined the football team there, playing as a center and defensive lineman. He was no longer just the small, determined kid from West Newbury. He was now a man competing at a higher level, surrounded by equally ambitious athletes. He trained relentlessly, often balancing full days of classes, hours in the weight room, and grueling football practice. The combination of academics and athletics taught him how to manage discipline, time, and energy, skills he would rely on heavily in the years to come. Yet, life in college wasn't solely about sports and academics. John began to explore different ways to express himself and carve out a unique identity. His experiences growing up with a charismatic father and 5 siblings made him both confident and outgoing. Yet he also learned the value of observation and strategic thinking. These qualities would later define his wrestling persona. He became increasingly interested in bodybuilding, entering local competitions and winning several titles. His appearance began to change dramatically. Muscles grew, stature increased, and a commanding presence started emerging. College had transformed John from a determined but quiet teen into a young man with undeniable physical and mental presence. It was during these years that Cena's interest in professional wrestling shifted from fascination to ambition. He realized that wrestling was the perfect combination of performance, storytelling, and athleticism, the very qualities he loved most. He admired the larger-than-life figures who could entertain thousands, inspire millions, and create memorable moments that lasted far beyond the ring. The blend of sport and theater felt like destiny to him. In his mind, he began to dream bigger. Not just of being strong, not just of being a football player or a bodybuilder, but of standing in the spotlight, in front of thousands of fans, commanding attention, and leaving a legacy. By the time he graduated from Springfield College, John Cena was a transformed individual. Physically, he had become a powerhouse, capable of feats most could only dream of. Mentally, he had cultivated resilience, focus, and an unwavering sense of self-belief. Socially and emotionally, he had learned to connect with people, entertain them, and inspire them, skills far beyond what most young adults acquire during college. With all of these pieces falling into place, Cena was ready to step into a new chapter of life. One that would take him from small-town Massachusetts into the worldwide spotlight of professional wrestling. After graduating from Springfield College, John Cena was no longer just the strong, disciplined, ambitious young man who had dominated football fields and bodybuilding competitions. He was now ready to pursue a dream that had quietly burned in his heart since childhood. The dream of becoming a professional wrestler. But like any great journey, the path forward was far from easy. Wrestling wasn't just a sport. It was a world of intense competition, theatrical performance, grueling physical demands, and relentless scrutiny. Cena would soon discover that talent and ambition alone were not enough. Success required resilience, perseverance, and the ability to overcome rejection again and again. John began his professional wrestling career in 1999, working for Ultimate Pro Wrestling, UPW, a small independent promotion in California. These early days were tough. He was far from the polished, charismatic figure that WWE fans would later recognize. He had the physique, but he was raw in technique and lacked the in-ring experience that veteran wrestlers possessed. Cena trained tirelessly, often arriving early and leaving late, absorbing every piece of instruction, every correction, and every lesson from his trainers. He studied tapes, analyzed his own performances, and worked to perfect not just his moves, but his timing, his presence, and his connection with the audience. In 2000, Cena's hard work began to pay off when he signed a developmental contract with the World Wrestling Federation, WWF, later WWE. He was assigned to Ohio Valley Wrestling, OVW, WWE's training ground for future stars. Here, Cena faced an entirely new level of pressure. The talent pool was immense, and every aspiring wrestler was fighting for a single opportunity to step onto WWE's main stage. Cena's early performances were met with mixed reviews. Some trainers praised his athleticism and determination, while others criticized his lack of natural charisma and his inexperience in the ring. He had to learn to handle criticism without letting it break his spirit, a skill that would become one of his greatest assets. Despite the challenges, Cena's perseverance never wavered. He immersed himself in training, pushing his body to its limits while simultaneously studying the psychology of wrestling. He learned how to read an audience, how to tell a story through physicality, and how to craft a persona that could captivate fans. These skills were as critical as the physical strength he had honed for years. Cena understood that wrestling was not just about lifting, throwing, or hitting. It was about emotion, drama, and connection. Every match had to tell a story, and he wanted to be the kind of performer who could leave a lasting impression long after the final bell rang. In 2002, Cena made his WWE television debut, but the beginning was far from glamorous. His early persona, known as the Doctor of Thugonomics, blended rap, attitude, and charisma, a style that reflected his willingness to experiment and connect with fans in unique ways. While some fans embraced the fresh energy he brought, others were skeptical. Cena was still the underdog, the newcomer, the guy who had to prove himself night after night. He faced boos, jeers, and the pressure of performing in front of audiences that were not yet ready to accept him. Many critics doubted that he would rise beyond a mid-card wrestler, seeing him as another athlete with potential but lacking star power. Yet Cena's defining characteristic, the refusal to quit, came to the forefront. Every setback became motivation. Every loss, every criticism, every skeptical fan was fuel for him to train harder, perform better, and push himself further than anyone else. He embraced challenges as opportunities and learned to transform adversity into strength. His commitment to self-improvement became legendary. He would spend hours perfecting his signature moves, refining his promos, and connecting with the WWE locker room to build relationships that could help him grow both personally and professionally. Slowly but surely, Cena began to climb the ranks. His combination of athletic ability, relentless work ethic, and evolving charisma started winning over fans. He was no longer just a new face in a crowded roster. He was becoming someone that audiences could rally behind. But the road was still long. Cena's journey through the early WWE years was defined by persistence in the face of doubt, resilience in the face of criticism, and an unwavering belief in his own potential. It was a crucible that would forge him into one of the greatest performers the wrestling world had ever seen. A man who would go on to redefine what it meant to be a WWE superstar. By the mid-2000s, John Cena had transformed from a determined rookie into a wrestler ready to make his mark on the grandest stage of all, WWE's main roster. His early years had been a crucible of discipline, rejection, and relentless self-improvement. And now he faced a new challenge, the pressure of performing on television in front of millions of fans who had not yet embraced him. The WWE spotlight was unforgiving, the competition fierce, and every move, promo, and performance would be scrutinized by critics and fans alike. But John Cena was ready. He had trained for this moment his entire life. Cena's early WWE character evolution played a critical role in capturing the audience's attention. Initially known for his Doctor of Thugonomics persona, he blended raps, attitude, and street-smart charisma with the physical dominance he had honed in years of training. This was a bold move. He was a white, suburban kid rapping his way into a world dominated by larger-than-life personalities. But it worked. Cena's energy was electric, his timing precise, and his ability to connect with the audience set him apart. Slowly, the WWE Universe began to notice that this was not just another athlete. This was someone who could entertain, inspire, and command attention with every word and every move. By 2005, Cena's hard work culminated in a defining moment. He won his first WWE Championship by defeating John Bradshaw Layfield, JBL, at WrestleMania 21. For Cena, this was more than a victory in the ring. It was the culmination of years of sweat, pain, and unwavering belief. The kid from West Newbury had climbed to the pinnacle of professional wrestling. But the road ahead would be just as challenging. Winning the championship made Cena a lightning rod for fan reactions. Some cheered passionately, inspired by his relentless drive and positive hustle, loyalty, respect, message, while others, dubbed the anti-Cena crowd, heckled him relentlessly, sometimes to the point of hostility. Yet Cena embraced both reactions. He knew that polarizing audiences meant he had power, influence, and relevance. He thrived on the challenge, using it to sharpen his performances and reinforce his connection with fans who supported him. What truly set Cena apart from other wrestlers was not just his athletic ability or his charisma. It was his work ethic and his character. He spent hours perfecting his promos, honing his in-ring psychology, and building relationships within the locker room to learn from veterans. He understood that WWE success wasn't just about physical dominance. It was about storytelling, performance, and the ability to inspire audiences. He became a master at reading crowds, understanding when to provoke, when to excite, and when to connect emotionally. This combination of athleticism and showmanship propelled him to the very top of the industry. Over the next several years, Cena became a fixture at WrestleMania, Royal Rumble, and other major events, winning multiple WWE championships and earning a reputation as a fighting champion who could carry storylines and headline pay-per-view events. He engaged in unforgettable rivalries with legends like Randy Orton, Batista, Edge, and The Rock, creating matches and moments that remain etched in wrestling history. But beyond the championships, Cena became a symbol, a hero for fans young and old, someone who embodied determination, resilience, and the power of believing in oneself. Cena's rise also coincided with a shift in his public persona. He embraced his hustle, loyalty, respect mantra not just in character, but as a guiding principle in his personal life. He became a role model, inspiring children through his appearances with the Make-A-Wish Foundation and encouraging fans to overcome obstacles, chase their dreams, and live with integrity. In a world where professional wrestling often blurred lines between reality and performance, Cena's authenticity and dedication helped him stand out. He was no longer just a performer in the ring. He was an icon who transcended wrestling, appealing to fans who admired both his physical feats and his values. By the late 2000s, John Cena had firmly cemented his place as one of WWE's all-time greats. He was not just a champion in the ring, but a cultural phenomenon whose name was recognized across the globe. Yet, even at the peak of his wrestling career, Cena's ambitions extended beyond the squared circle. He envisioned a future that included acting, philanthropy, and opportunities to inspire audiences in new ways. And as he prepared for the next chapter of his life, it became clear that Cena's journey was far from over. What began as a small boy lifting weights in a basement in Massachusetts had transformed into a global superstar whose story was still being written, one championship, one performance, and one unforgettable moment at a time. By the early 2010s, John Cena was no longer just a WWE superstar. He had become a household name, recognized around the world for his charisma, physicality, and dedication. Yet despite the dizzying heights of wrestling fame, Cena was not content to stay confined to the ring. His ambition had always been larger than any single arena. He wanted to entertain on an even bigger stage, to connect with audiences beyond wrestling, and to leave a legacy that would endure long after his championship reigns ended. This ambition led him naturally toward Hollywood. Cena's foray into acting began with supporting roles, often playing tough, commanding figures that drew on his wrestling persona. His first appearances included small roles in television shows and films where his physical presence and disciplined performance style stood out. But Cena's transition from wrestler to actor was not instantaneous. It required patience, skill, and a willingness to learn a completely new craft. Just as he had once trained endlessly to perfect his wrestling moves, Cena approached acting with the same rigorous discipline. He studied scripts, worked on his delivery, and learned to adapt his larger-than-life energy to camera work, a different challenge than performing for a live arena audience. By the mid-2010s, Cena's persistence began to pay off. He landed roles in major motion pictures, balancing action-packed performances with comedic timing that showcased his versatility. Films like Trainwreck, Blockers, and Bumblebee allowed Cena to demonstrate not only his physical prowess, but also a surprising range in humor, charm, and emotional depth. Audiences and critics alike began to recognize that Cena was not just a wrestler dabbling in acting. He was a performer capable of holding his own alongside Hollywood's biggest names. This success broadened his fan base beyond wrestling enthusiasts to a global audience that admired both his talent and his personality. At the same time, Cena continued to embrace his role as a public figure and role model. He became the most requested celebrity for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, granting more wishes than any other individual in the organization's history. He visited children battling serious illnesses, offering encouragement, laughter, and hope. His motto of hustle, loyalty, respect transcended wrestling, resonating with fans of all ages and inspiring countless individuals to persevere in their own lives. Cena's public persona combined strength, discipline, and humility, a rare mix that made him one of the most respected figures in entertainment. Even as he flourished in Hollywood, Cena never abandoned the wrestling world entirely. He returned to WWE for special appearances, headline matches, and high-profile storylines, reminding fans that the same man who had once struggled to gain recognition in the ring was still capable of delivering unforgettable moments. He became a bridge between generations of fans, representing the intersection of wrestling history and modern pop culture. His ability to balance multiple careers, maintain physical excellence, and engage audiences across platforms demonstrated an unparalleled work ethic and strategic vision. Cena's expanding legacy wasn't limited to wrestling or acting. He became a social media powerhouse, a motivational speaker, and an influencer in fitness, charity, and entertainment. He inspired millions through his perseverance, authenticity, and ability to reinvent himself repeatedly. From a small-town boy lifting weights in a basement in Massachusetts to a WWE champion dominating arenas worldwide, and now a Hollywood actor and cultural icon, Cena's journey was a testament to what can be achieved through relentless dedication, resilience, and self-belief. By the late 2010s, John Cena had solidified his place not just as a wrestler, not just as an actor, but as a global figure whose story transcended any single career path. He had become a symbol of hard work, determination, and the power of dreaming bigger than your circumstances. The world had watched him grow, struggle, triumph, and reinvent himself. And yet even at this stage, Cena continued to push boundaries, embrace challenges, and inspire millions, proving that his story, like his impact, was far from finished. As the 2020s unfolded, John Cena's career continued to evolve, proving that he was far more than just a wrestler or an actor. He had become a versatile, enduring icon in entertainment, philanthropy, and popular culture. After decades of dominating the WWE ring and making waves in Hollywood, Cena began carefully balancing his multiple careers, choosing projects and appearances that allowed him to continue inspiring fans while expanding his global influence. Unlike many athletes whose fame fades after their prime, Cena demonstrated a rare ability to adapt, reinvent, and remain relevant across generations. Although his focus had shifted toward Hollywood, Cena never completely stepped away from WWE. Special appearances, high-profile matches, and surprise returns became his hallmark, generating excitement among fans worldwide. Each return was met with thunderous applause, cheers, and sometimes boos, the passionate reactions of a fan base that had grown with him over decades. Cena's presence in the ring remained magnetic. His charisma, skill, and dedication to performance ensured that every moment felt electric. Even as he aged, his physical conditioning and work ethic allowed him to perform at a level that many wrestlers half his age could not match. Fans often remarked that Cena seemed to defy time itself, a testament to his discipline and enduring passion. During this period, Cena continued to build his Hollywood resume, tackling diverse roles that demonstrated both comedic and dramatic range. He became particularly known for family-friendly films and action comedies, cementing his status as a global entertainer. Movies such as F9 and the Fast and Furious franchise showcased his ability to combine intense physicality with humor, while others like Vacation Friends and The Suicide Squad revealed a natural comedic timing and on-screen charm. Each role reinforced Cena's versatility, proving that his talents extended far beyond the wrestling ring. Outside of entertainment, Cena continued to expand his influence in philanthropy, fitness, and motivational outreach. He remained deeply involved with the Make-A-Wish Foundation, holding the record for the most wishes granted by a single individual. His commitment to children, families, and communities highlighted a side of Cena that went beyond fame, wealth, or accolades. He had become a role model and a source of hope for millions around the world. Social media amplified this influence, allowing Cena to share messages of determination, resilience, and optimism directly with fans, further solidifying his status as a cultural icon. Cena's personal life, while largely private, also reflected the values he championed publicly. Known for his discipline, humility, and focus, he carefully balanced the demands of fame with personal growth, maintaining strong relationships and continuously challenging himself professionally and physically. Even as new wrestling stars emerged and Hollywood offered new faces, Cena remained relevant, not through nostalgia alone, but through hard work, adaptability, and a relentless commitment to excellence. As of today, John Cena stands as one of the most accomplished and recognized figures in both sports and entertainment. His journey, From a small-town boy in Massachusetts lifting weights in a basement, to a WWE champion and global superstar, to a Hollywood actor and philanthropist, serves as a testament to the power of determination, perseverance, and self-belief. Cena's story is far from finished. With each new project, each charitable effort, and each surprise return to the ring, he continues to inspire and captivate audiences around the world. The legacy of John Cena is not defined merely by championships won or movies starred in, but by the countless lives he has touched and the example he has set as someone who refuses to quit, no matter the challenge.